In this video, we are featuring the Tinsel Toes Crochet Socks by Nikipirowicz. It is important for you to get the tension correctly so that at least the width of your socks is correct. We start off from the top by creating a number of chainless foundation double crochet. I recommend that you use a size bigger crochet hook size to start off with. If you're making a small socks, that would be 36 foundation double crochet, and if you're making a large socks, that's 44 foundation double crochet. And after you make the appropriate number of chainless foundation, you close the gap by slip stitching, and then you move on to the next row. So to make the leg of your sock, we are making a series of V stitches. A V stitch is essentially a half treble crochet followed by a chain, and then ending with a half treble crochet in the same space or the same stitch. And then you skip the next stitch. So you keep making this V stitch around. So half treble crochet, chain one, half treble crochet again in the same stitch. You skip the next stitch and then work the V stitches in the following stitch. And then to close this row, simply slip stitch into the first V stitch. So you keep doing this, making sure that you are working the V stitches on top of the chain one space of the previous row. So in the instructions, we need to repeat this so we have 19 rounds, but you can simply measure it so that you have the appropriate length for your leg. For the heel flap, we start with the chain one and we work a double crochet across. For a small sock, that will be 18 double crochet, and then we simply turn the work after making the appropriate number of stitches. And this is not around the sock, you're simply doing this at one side or one half of the sock. Make sure you miss the chain one spaces. You are working the double crochet into the top of the half treble crochet. So turn your work, chain one, and then work double crochet in every stitch until the end. And this is at the end of the previous row. So you make an appropriate number of rows to make the heel flap, followed by turning the heel. For row one, we do a chain one, double crochet a number of times, DC2 together, double crochet in the next stitch, and then you turn your work, leaving the rest unworked. Chain two, similarly chain one, double crochet in 2 stitches, DC2 together, and a double crochet, and then you turn. For row 3 and the rest of the turning of the heel, first chain one, double crochet all throughout but leaving the last stitch unworked, and then work a DC2 together, which combines the last stitch of the previous row and the next stitch, which is 2 rows below. That would be your DC2 together, followed by a double crochet, and then you turn your work. So you do this until you have a heel. So here we just finished the turn of the heel. So it's like a triangle. Following, we have a gusset, chain one, work double crochet, 10 to 12 double crochet at the top of the heel, followed by 9 to 11 double crochet evenly along the edge of the heel flap. So you just divide that so you have the appropriate number of double crochet there. Place a marker at this last stitch, and then you are going to be working a series of V stitches along that row that has been previously unworked when you were making the heel flap and the turn of the heel. So if you're working on a small sock, you are essentially working 9 V stitches on top of the previous row, which is also V stitches. So as a reminder, V stitch is a half treble crochet followed by a chain 1 and then ending with a half treble crochet in the same stitch. So after you're making the appropriate number of V stitches in this part of the gusset, we are going to be working double crochet stitches, the same number of double crochet stitches on the other edge. So there will be 9 double crochet stitches if you are making a small sock and 11 if you're making a large sock. So divide that along this second edge for your gusset. And then we finish this off with a slip stitch into the first stitch of the row. The rest of the gusset follows a similar pattern, only we reduce the stitches right before the first red marker and right after the blue marker. And we keep to using V stitches where we have V stitches. So after we finish the gusset, we are going to be making the foot. So just keep the markers where they are as a guide to where we are in terms of going through the stitches. So start with a chain 1 and then half treble crochet until we reach our first V stitch in the previous row. So our first V stitch will probably be right after our first marker. So look for the chain 1 space, and this is where we're going to be working our first V stitch. So half treble crochet, chain 1, and then half treble crochet again. So if you are making a small sock, that would be 9 V stitches, and then if you're making a large sock, that would be 11 V stitches. So after you finish with the V stitches, going back to half treble crochet in the at the rest of this row, followed by or finishing it off with a slip stitch. So here we have half treble crochet followed by a slip stitch into the first stitch. So you follow this pattern until you have the appropriate size for your foot, and make sure you measure from the heel. And then after you have the appropriate number of stitches for that for the foot, then we start with the toe. So for the toes, we use double crochet stitches throughout. No V stitches or anything like that. So the first row is simply double crochet around. The second row, we are going to be decreasing the stitches very close to where the markers are, followed by a row of simple double crochet, and then we alternate rows of decreasing stitches and simply double crochet around. Now again, you can follow the pattern to the letter, or you can simply measure the resulting sock. Okay, and then once your toe is finished, we need to close this up. Reverse your sock. We make sure you have some yarn at the end so we can sew this closed. So this is the wrong side of the sock, and I made sure that it is aligned, and just a simple stitch like this. And I would do this twice over just to make sure it's secure, and then we weave in the ends and cut off any excess yarn. Right, so here's our sock so far, but we are not finished. We need to make the cuff. For the cuff, we can insert our yarn in any position here. And then we work a number of half treble crochet around up to the end. And then for round 2, chain 2, and then we do a front post half treble crochet, followed by a back post half treble crochet, and then followed by a slip stitch into the first stitch, and then weaving in any loose ends. So here is our Twinkle Toes crochet socks. I hope you enjoyed making this. See you in the next video.